Hey kids, Inverted Cow here, and welcome back to the season finale of Ironman Season 6. I am here in front of the wall of those who have fallen to celebrate the winners, those who won. This season, all four of the final contestants, Zanfen, Trueseeker, Virus, and Captain Adonis, all finished their final missions. Everybody else, including myself, were horrible, horrible failures. So there we have it. That is the end of Season 6 Ironman competition. I hope you all enjoyed it. I am very much looking forward to next season. I am going to take a quick break here. I'm going to jump over to where I have some ships set up, and we're going to discuss something about Season 7. So don't go away, kids. I'll be right back. Okay, kids, we are back here on the planet. It's just coming up on sunrise, so you should be able to see fairly nicely. And what I have done is I have brought in every one of my builds that I personally have made. All of them were made in either survival or multiplayer. I'm going to start by showcasing a couple of these builds. First off, this was this is actually a starter build. This was made for the Wolves server as a starter POI. It was not made as a primary base. It was made as a starting location. Had it actually saved correctly, I'm going to see if I can show it in green mode here. Had it saved correctly, you would see there is still damage showing on top of it. The window screens are cracked, that sort of thing. It's actually one of my favorite builds I've ever done. This is the kind of build that I love to do. Take something and build it. This is based on the Wolves gunboat. It's a Wolves gunboat build. It's been fixed, altered, modified. It's supposed to look like basically the middle part of the ship itself with the bridge that has crashed into a planet. Now, I tried to place it on this beach here, but it sunk underground and it didn't level the terrain like it's supposed to here. And yes, I'm in God mode, so I'll fly through doors. It has power because when I built it, they did not have solar panels, and I had a small generator and fuel tank placed back in here. This area here was originally designed so that you could put in gardens, but as I said, like, it didn't level terrain correctly, so it didn't show up correctly. There was no gardens placed on it. There was nothing placed in it when I built it because it's for the mercenary faction, which basically, we're not gardeners, we're a bunch of combat vets. Now, of course, you have the staircase going up to what was originally the bridge. This area here is your, it's like it gives you the couple refrigerators, the personal cargo locker. I had put the air vent into it because the planet we had originally used this on had no air. And then, of course, bathroom showers to deal with the radiation. And then there's a player spawn pad, or there should be a player spawn pad right here on top of these stairs. I think that's actually been removed at one point. And yes, you'll remember this scene from a video I did where I'm standing right about here, and I look over, and then I center in on the chair. And there you go. Your place here awaits. This was the first, well, not the first build I ever did. The first base build I've ever done. That was for something other than just me building on a planet or on a game. The reason I'm showing you this is there is a rumor that we might be doing some a custom build for one of the future Ironmans. I was hoping to see if somebody would be interested in taking this base and having this as the starter base rather than nothing. Mm. Oh, coffee. The world revolves on coffee. My cat is being annoying. Very good. Of course, it would need to be slightly modified. That is, I would need to put a solar panel on it instead of generators and that sort of thing. But that's about it. I'm going to scroll over here real quick. Welcome to small vessel, uh, my small vessel graveyard. Um, Move. There we go. What we have here is a couple iterations of various builds that I have done in single player and in multiplayer. We'll start with these Vipers. I made this in single player a long, 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 long time ago. In fact, I think this was on my very first game. Pure single player build. I think this was still version 4 or version 5. I'm not sure when I built it. I had taken it in, showed it off to a couple people on the multiplayer server, and we came up with a slightly more aggressive version. Now, this is still a small vessel. This is also pre-warp type thing. It's a good gun. The needle guns and I believe it was lasers and rockets on it pack quite the punch. I've used this, actually, this version here, used this in space a couple of times for space combat. Because of its excessively fast acceleration speed, it is actually a lot harder to hit than it looks. The Lightning, this was the last season, the first HV or small vessel build I did on the multiplayer server last season. Again, this was actually the unfinished version. I never actually did finish it. I threw a whole bunch more RCS units into it than what this has. I put rockets into these empty slots, that sort of thing. But it never really rang my bell. And then when I was looking at it later, I noticed that the two fuselage parts are not long enough. But that's okay. The shuttle, you saw me build this or bring this in, spawn this version of the shuttle in. This is the Wally version. Wallenstein helped finish this out. This was the original version which had the exposed thrusters. And Wallenstein and I covered it up, and we made it a lot more interesting. I spawned this, I think, last season on Ironman. It's also one of my favorite SVs with for basic get around and do stuff. Again, as I build most of my SVs, they contain a lot of I hate working in God mode sometimes. They contain a lot of the things that you would normally need: constructors, fridges, things for basic supply, and this has been mainly made for troop transport and supply drop into a combat zone. This little tiny ship, this little blue, down. This little blue Dawn. This was the first version that I made that came with a warp drive. Purely a fun build. I played it on Dawn of Galaxy map before the game became too unstable that I couldn't even bother playing. It's not really a fighter. It's more of a just get around and shoot stuff kind of ship build. Not really heavy design combat type thing. I'm going to skip that one for a second. Of course, there's the backwards Warthog. The core faces the wrong way. I never did figure out how to do it. Some people have suggested taking it in creative and changing it around. I like this plane. And in God mode here, it's basically a large solid block of combat blocks. You know, there is not a lot to it that isn't solid block. And it does have a warp core between these two nacelles in the back, so it can do warp as well, which is funny considering, but yeah. This one here can do warp as well, but this is a little light fighter more than anything, or medium fighter, I guess. And it can actually take a surprising amount of punishment because of the design. This bus, the admin bus, this was a fun build. I made this bus entirely for fun. As you can see, it is literally, it's a bus. It was designed to use admin commands and teleport people from wherever they were to admin events on the Wolves community server when the server was still active. We had community events, and we were always rounding people up. And one of the things I got annoyed with was having to transport people around. And so I made that for that, because I found that the shuttle wasn't quite doing it. And this was easy. I could spawn it in, literally put it into admin, or put it into public and load everybody up, and away we went. Now the reason I'm showing you these is these are some of my builds, and next season, rather than build a small vessel, a base, hover vessels, or capital vessels, I want some of your comments. I want to spawn these in. I'm thinking I'm going to do some of the things that I don't normally do on Iron Man. I'm going to actually play the PDA files, and I'm going to spawn some of these vessels back into combat. More than likely not the version 1s, but the version 2s. Like, I'm really seriously thinking of bringing the shuttle version 2 in, possibly the Viper version 2 in. You know, I liked the Warthog, but like I said, it was backwards. I might do a version 3 on the shuttle. Now, some of these are multiplayer game things, so I have to change certain block. They're limited, I can't bring them in, so I have to change a lot of the block stuff. This is a classic example of that. This is the turtle tank. This was made to land on a planet, a hostile planet, a very hostile planet. And basically, you could move it over an ore deposit or resource. You could mine that ore deposit or that resource. You could build a base, basic base with it, that sort of thing. But as you see, it sports 8 artillery cannons. It sports a large supply of rocket, plasma, laser, and minigun cannons. In fact, far more than you're allowed to have on a actual single player. The whole of it itself. Let's see if I can do this without crashing through walls here. It's very basic. It's a straightforward hallway. There are walls of thrusters on the outside edge, that sort of thing. And then the bridge section here, if I get into the ship without, there we go. Oops. Welcome to God mode, not my favorite thing. We'll just do this out of God mode. Okay. The bridge is enclosed. There's a walkway down to the lower deck, but the upper deck bridge is enclosed now. I think it's got power. I can't seem to target this switch for some reason. I don't know if that's working anymore. Yeah, all the logic circuits are not working. There's a overhead door here. You could actually come here and stand just in the right spot and launch your drone, usually without too much problems. Of course, drone launching has become more and more of a challenge than ever. This ship was decked out. I actually had Raleigh and Thor come and help, as well as Ionic came and they helped. They did a lot of the work inside here, including some of the system, the view screens, you know, the QWERTY keyboards. I love this. This was my favorite detail that they'd put on here. They actually made a QWERTY keyboard. Considering both of them were using German lettering, it actually turned out pretty good. Cargo storage, but it's meant as literally a portable base. Bring you downstairs to the lower section here, and you'll see the main feature of this ship, and that is the center courtyard. I have 4 mining turrets underneath here, underslung mining turrets, and ample lighting. This ship actually has an amphitheater underneath of it, so that you can build what you need to build in relative protected thing. I mean, from a radiation planet, which was part of what this was made for, you could sit here and build, and have no problems. Again, there's some storage, access to some of the extra. These are not really anything fancy. This is just basic stuff was set up in there so that you could add more if you needed it. More cargo, more storage, more this, more that. There are cargo boxes tucked into this hallway. Ammo boxes and that sort of thing. Most of the stuff on the lower deck was stuff you never had to really worry about. I think this was my ammo locker here. You know. Now this was made before the multi-turrets came out. And these are, this is some basic stores, backup stores. This came out before the multi-turrets came out, because I would probably do is actually put multi-turrets on it. Now, I'm going to switch back to game mode again, and I have made, I did try and make a civilian version of it. Now, as you can see, the civilian version is only allowed 1 turret, I believe, or 2 artillery turrets. I got 1 facing forward and 1 facing aft, I think. A couple of miniguns, some plasma. It's very, very lightly armored in comparison to its original design. And that bothers me, but that's okay. I could put multi-turrets into these corner slots, that sort of thing. But if I was going to bring a base or a hover vessel back into the game, this is probably the one I would do. It's very large. It's actually larger than most other things. It's almost the same size as the starter base. Like this is a base, and that is my tank. And to give you an idea of the size. Now, to give you a comparison, this was a very early version of the scavenger truck that you've seen me build multiple times in various builds, in various places. This was one of the first ones I ever made. As you can see, everything's exposed. I really had no concept of the idea of armor because I was playing single player and I never had a problem. This is actually a small vessel. It is the same size as a large cargo box. It's actually 1 small block smaller than a large cargo box. This is made for penetrating penetrating POIs. And actually I have too many RCSs on it that it actually becomes slightly unstable. it could do a little bit more balancing. I have seen people actually make a smaller version of this that's actually only 2 blocks wide. Um, I like it. Nice design. I like to use that for POIs that I cannot get into easily. Normally, if I'm doing something like the abandoned factory, this would be what I would have used for it. I am thinking I might actually spawn this in fairly early game and utilize it for some of the combat roles until I can get the turtle tank spawned in. This is the Blue Meanie. This was a heavy fighter combat vessel. It is heavily armored, lots of armor. It's not a valid single player thing because of the number of point defense guns I actually have on here. I think I've got 18. Maximum number is like 6. Strictly very Spartan vessel. Nothing fancy to it. I'm not sure what was here, but something was that the game didn't like. Again, if you go down the elevator, it has a couple of floors, each with different uses: shower, bathroom, warp tank, that sort of thing. Cargo storage on one floor, this floor here. This was decorative more than anything, these capacitors, because they really didn't do anything. They still don't. A repair station, oxygen, and spawn spot. Basically, this was you spawn here, and away you go. It does not have any constructors or other, as you can see, no constructors on the ship at all, no build things. Part of our rules on the server when this was built was any ship that has constructors is not considered to be a combat vessel and therefore is limited on guns. This one is still limited because of its size class, and that really annoyed me. Of course, I used this in combat anyway a few times when the server became inert. This is a fun ship to fly, fun build, very nice, very well balanced craft. I actually gave a couple of Spanja ships a run through on the first version, where the cockpit was actually set lower. Last season you saw me build the Bit and Biscuit. This was purely just for fun and entertainment. It's really, actually, I've used it on the server a couple of times. It is not a practical ship for server combat. I mean, it has the hover vessel hangar bay that can hold like a small vessel or some odds and ends like that. It was really me just having fun derping around. A lot of people really loved the way I laid out the gravity generator, that sort of thing. But the fuel tanks are way too exposed. The ship itself is not overly well designed. Although the armament on this version was substantially more than what I am allowed on a server or on the server. This was still built in survival on single player and is a perfectly valid design for a ship. This ship here, the Saucer of the Cow, this was me having fun when version 6 first dropped out. Purely just me testing out and learning about how to build round shapes and crafts. Heavily armored at the front, heavily armed, let me rephrase, not heavily armored, but heavily armed at the front. Meant more as a mobile attack base. Before they had crew, I had it laid out so that I could have crew complements and crew quarters. The core, of course, is heavily enshrouded. The warp tank, warp unit here. This was built back when the original big giant donut was in place, so that's why it doesn't look right now with this ugly monstrosity here. I don't know where these came from. I'm guessing this was a glitch from some mirror moding or something that was going on at one point. I have no idea. I've never really taken the time to remove them from this build because they were not there. This was purely a glitch from something else with the mirror mode that was never intended. I've never taken them out. I've never found them because I really never use this ship at all. The hangar bay for them on either side, this is twinned of course, the hangar bay on either side is way too small. It's good if you have a landing spot where you can set this saucer down because you got lots of clearance underneath it, and then you could literally drop small vessels. If they ever invented a way to actually make an elevator, which is what I had wanted to do here, is you would have an elevator that just lowers down to the ground and boom, away your craft goes. And then there was a mining turret, I believe. Yes, this was a mining turret underneath. This side here I put a ramp in because I really had troubles. Again, lots of point defense turns, and I don't think this is valid because of the number of point defense turns on the outside of the ship. Again, it was made in multiplayer. That was that build. Now I'm thinking that next season I'm probably going to do is I'm going to spawn in the blue meanie, the turtle tank, maybe the tunnel craft there, and one or more of the other small vessels. And I might have to scratch build a capital vessel to move the turtle if I ever use it for anything other than just booting around on the starter planet. The reason for that is, well, honestly, I'm getting tired of building. I have a couple of major builds that I'm working on, and none of them are getting finished. And I like this game, but the build mechanics are becoming increasingly frustrating. But that is all my things. Now, next season, I'm going to use some of these, a few of these anyway, in the game. They're going to be utilized in game as part of my builds. Kidding. Jetpack. Okay. The jet. You fly in jetpacks. Okay. Interesting. Oh, that's because this is a creative game. Okay. I'm trying to think. Why am I not hopping? So thanks all for watching, kids. I hope to see you on season 7. And hopefully we will have a bit of fun with some of these vessels and some of these things. And like I said, if it turns out that we are, if you're wanting to use this ship, you want to use this craft ship as part of a build, I'd love to I'll let you use it. Like, let me know, send me a thing, comment. If there's any of these ships you'd like to see me actually utilize more than anything. I mean, I'd love to be able to pull this in, but I need to take the gun limits off because this is an awesome tank. If there's any ships you'd like to see me actually utilize in the competition next season, leave a comment down in the thing. Like if you do want to see me actually spawn, like say the Bitten Biscuit or the Saucer, as opposed to the Blue Meanie, that would be great. Let me know, and I'll actually see if I can spawn one of those in instead. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next season. And good night for now.